I'm going to run a process here. As Aaron mentioned, I teach at Stanford in the engineering school. I do long-range forecasting and teach forecasting methods. I've been around the Valley a couple of decades. You might say I'm a futurist with a past. And a typical bio for someone in this conference, I've had my own startup. And variously, I was chairman of Samsung Science Board, on AT&T Science Board, a bunch of other stuff. What I want to do is I'm going to lead you through a process that I call Delphi mapping. This is a way to create context around what you're learning here at the conference today. That we're going to step back, look at a whole bunch of factors, and look out 50 years. So specifically, for those of you who are interested in method, this is applying what's known as Delphi method plus technology sequence analysis and cross-impact assessment and modify some scenario elements to come up with a single image of the next 50 years. And I'm not doing it, you're doing it. And I should mention a word about Delphi, since we have Nikki here from Greece, that it is a tool that is used to forecast by recursively assessing events that are happening. And it's named after the Oracle of Delphi, which who here has ever been to Delphi, seen the Oracle? Nice. So who in this room is a consultant? A few of you. So the Delphic Oracle may be the single most effective consultant in history. It had a run of about 1,000 years and got piled up with enormous wealth. So next time somebody says using an oracle is stupid, say, maybe you may not be quite right. But it's a way to think about uncertainty. Here's what we're going to do. This is the process. And by the way, I am flying low and fast over this. I'm about to give you a ridiculously large task with absolutely no advance notice and no budget and a ridiculously short amount of time to do it in. Welcome to the consulting world. So our first step is I have pre-assembled a set of expert judgments of events about the future. It's aggregated from Singularity faculty and from other experts. And those, I'll explain it in a second. Step 2 is what you're going to do in the next slightly less than an hour, is build a chronology of events out the next 50 years. And then we're going to assess the possible outcomes in a session at the end of the day. Each table has a factor category. These are all the categories up here. For the purposes of this morning, all you need to care about is your assigned factor category. And what it will have is a set of cards like this. You don't need to even pick them up or do anything. This I stole from table 1. Remind me to give it back to you. They are covering health, biotech, and medicine. By the way, there's a second health, biotech, medicine table in this room somewhere, because we have 16 tables and 13 categories. You're going to take these cards and unclip them and discussing among yourselves, walk them through and say, okay, what's the chronological sequence that these could happen in, and write the year down at the bottom of each card. Now, I'm covering a lot of detail here. There is also a handout at your table if you have questions, and Aaron and I will be walking around together. And the outcome of this, also note, it says 6 key headline dates. Each table later on, you will be working about writing a headline for a particular year out to 2070. By the way, is anybody sort of kind of shaking their head at this point and saying, no way I can do this? So trust me, you can do this and it will work. And what you're going to do after you're finished with your table, sorting these out in chronological order, you're going to carry them out to the hallway out there. And here is the indefatigable Stephanie standing in front of the chart we put up there. And so, for example, the health, biotech, and medicine table, you are about midway down, and you're going to put your cards in order, stick them to the wall there, at the appropriate time along the timeline. So, step 1, you're going to assemble your your factor chronology. Do this in sequence. When you've got it sorted in chronological order, wave, and we'll have one of your people from your table take it out, and Stephanie will help you set it up. Note also you have several blank cards here that, because our time was short, I pre-populated with a whole bunch of events and factors just to get you thinking. What we're also especially interested in are the factors that are not pre-printed that you would add in the course of your discussion. Say, well, we're in health, biotech, and medicine. I think there is a particular event that's really going to happen here, and write it down and add it to your list. And just a word about the factors, that they've all been carefully selected in talking to experts. By now, you know about what experts are worth in terms of predicting the future. And there are a couple of surprises in there. A very famous forecaster at the Pentagon, Herman Kahn, once in 1958 wrote a report, and in the front of the report he wrote, "Warning, portions of this report are intentionally misleading in order to provoke thought." Well, there might be one or two misleading things in here, and so we want you to think. So, don't forget, as I said, to add your own factors, and please write legibly on these things, because we won't be able to predict your future if we can't read it. Now, these predictions, you might say, a famous American philosopher, Yogi Berra, once said, prediction is really difficult, especially when it's about the future. And I'm happy to talk at breaks in detail about how I approach this and the difference between a prediction and a forecast. I'll spare you that now. Suffice it to say, anybody can do this and do it effectively. Here's a historic forecast from that famous academic journal, 17 magazine, in January 2000. 2020 visions of the future in 2020, 20 years out, asking teenage girls. And they had all sorts of forecasts, and I put one up front there, number 8. I predict that the technology already lets us clones live species, such as mice and sheep, will now be used to clone the extinct woolly mammoth. And in fact, that is happening. I'm on the board of something called the Long Now Foundation. You may know that George Church is busy doing it. So if teenage girls in the year 2000 can do that good a job, then certainly all of you heavyweights in this room can come up with something equally impressive. So, any questions? You ready to go? Let's go. So start talking among yourselves, pull your cards out, sort them in chronological order, add your ideas. Okay, everyone. So those of you, everybody should be back at their tables. There's some tables I didn't tell. Here's what I want you to do back at your table is come up with a 1 or 2 sentence summary of the next 50 years of your category. So I was just talking to the AI folks, and maybe a 1 sentence summary is, there is a God now, who knows? Or, VR and AR, finally, no more goggles. So think about it, because we're going to ask you to report out a comment or two on that. Okay, everyone, pause your conversations, look up this way. The future has arrived. We have one conversation. The future's arrived, and I'm going to ask tables to go around and give us their little 1-sentence summary of their topical band in just a second. And show of hands, who thinks this is absolutely unfair and entirely too fast? Okay, we'll talk to you over lunch. Of course it's unfair, and of course it's too fast, but you'll see the end product ends up becoming a very powerful backdrop for deeper thinking, that the end product of this is the start of something much larger. And speaking about the end product, so Stephanie, who's working over here, and Stephanie has been my partner in developing this process, which, by the way, I've done as short as a session like this and as long as a 4-month process for the strategy office of a national government developing their 50-year plan. So the process can be expanded in or out, and it's something you can take home. What Stephanie is going to do while you all are working in here is she's going to go out and put icons next to the factors that you put up. And what Stephanie and I worked out in advance with the pre-printed factors is we did little artistic icons for each. And then for the new factors you've added, she's going to create them here at the meeting. So what we have is about a little less than 10 minutes. I want to hear table report outs. If you've got a killer 1 or 2 sentence summary of your category band, let's hear it. Table 4, tell us your category.
Okay, our category is economy, finance, and prosperity. And we said we will have equal opportunity and prosperity for every human being in harmony with nature.
Very nice. Economic prosperity for every human being in harmony with nature. Table 10, can you top that for your category?
It's a good segue.
Oh, he gave it to me. Okay. So our category is environment, climate, and food. And we've determined that it's too little too late. We are screwed. Humans ate the world.
Perfect. Okay, we are screwed. Thank you. Okay, so table 10's advice is eat dessert first over lunch. There's a quick question from Ricardo here too. Oh, you guys are ready. Okay. Yeah, and part of the purpose here is Aaron is very fit, and our goal is to make him travel as much as possible in this session. So after table 2, I want like table 11. Aaron, get up here to table 2.
Be ready to finance
what's your category?
It's transportation and space.
Okay.
Be ready to fund your next business and find your next love in space.
In space. Find love in space. I love it. Awesome. Table 1.
Health, biotech, and medicine. Health in the future will be celebrated as a common good for all. Being the average age of 100 years old, society will be cancer-free. Cancer will be treated with over-the-counter pills, and you can replace any organs in your body on a day surgery session. Food supply and nutrition will be plant and lamb-grown based and protein, and will be abundant for all.
Thank you. Very nicely done. Now, by the way, there's another health, biotech, and medicine group out here. So we'll see if you can do better. I would take yours, reduce it to a single headline, and it's, take out body parts on demand. Okay, table 7.
AR, VR will move from the possibility of AR, VR to the alternative of 2 lenses back to fusion into 1 lens with singularity on EQ.
Ooh, okay. Wait, with singularity on?
Emotional.
Okay, an EQ singularity. Ooh, I like it. Good. Okay, next table.
Table 9.
We had networks and computing, the new energy that fuels the next human revolution.
Nice. So networks and computing, the new energy that fuels human civilization. Did I get that right? Revolution. Next revolution. Table 6.
Category is energy systems. And we think the world will produce more energy than we will consume, and production will come from multiple sources of renewable energy.
Good. More energy. So the short headline, more energy than we need. Okay? How about another table, dying to report out? Table 12.
We're culture, arts, and tourism, and we believe AI, robotics, VR, AR, and transportation tech will have profound and significant roles over the next 10 to 20 years in this space.
Good, okay. So tourism reshaped by AI, VR, AR, and robotics. Cool, okay. Table 3.
So it's governance and geopolitics. And the headline is, the global digital identity is a reality in the whole world.
Global digital identity, universal global digital identity. Ooh.
You went to the blockchain talk, didn't you?
And see, you could take that one and say, well, is that good news or bad news? These headlines in turn can be subject to conversation. Table 11.
So our subject is AI and robotics. Robots will be able to replicate all human functions and therefore threaten the purpose of the human race by the end of the century.
Ooh, robot apocalypse.
Bit negative, sorry.
You guys are going to go with table 10.
No, that's good. I like it. Robot apocalypse. And let's see, which tables?
16.
15. Okay.
16. We are health, biotech, and medicine, and our slogan is "We help you die we help you die young as late as humanly possible," and it's "Live forever, regret it later."
Oh, I like that first one. We help you die young as late as possible. That could be the motto of a company. Of course, I here in Silicon Valley, where all of our products are late, I always think of, the rephrasing of Napoleon's famous quip, "Someday when I die, I hope I'll die in Silicon Valley because everything here arrives late." Okay, so all the tables have reported out. No way, okay. 15. Oh, 13, lucky 13.
Yes. Manufacturing is our subject, so rather an old industry subject. So we've been trying to be, let's say, as realistic as possible. In the next 15, 20 years, we think we will be seeing factories that are sufficient in energy so they can supply their own energy to produce. The labor force will go dramatically down in the factories. And we will have customized products coming out of factories much more than we have today.
Cool.
On demand.
Custom products. Okay, and then I think 14, okay.
Governance and geopolitics, and let's say our idea is that we should really be ready for the disruption of democracy as we know it today and disruption of how the population interact with the government.
Good, so I can't see where you are. Oh, way back there, 14. So what was your category again?
Governance and geopolitics.
Okay, governance and geopolitics, and your statement is?
Be ready for the disruption of the democracy as we know it today and for a completely new way of interacting between the population and the government.
Cool, be ready for disruption. Democracy, great fun while it lasted. Okay, table 8.
So our category was media and entertainment, and we said that the metaverse will take over entertainment, so everybody can be the next Cristiano Ronaldo in the metaverse.
Ooh, I like it. It's sort of a nice play on Andy Warhol's famous comment that everybody will be famous for 15 minutes. So, nice. And
15.
Table 15.
Our subjects, transportation and space, and our code is future transportation is going to be cleaner, faster, and further, with distances and costs no longer being a barrier, even outside Earth.
Clear, faster, and further. It reminds me of Buzz Lightyear's motto, "To infinity and beyond," led by Greg. And table 5, I think you're the last table. No pressure, we're all going to remember you.
Knowledge and learning. In 2050 will appear the first global university that is going to base in the moon, where you can learn more than 30 languages. The teachers are robots, and also you can be through the metaverse, wherever you want.
So first global university appears on the moon.
The moon, yeah.
So if it's on the moon, is that a global university or a lunar university?
No, but it's nice.
Let's get a copywriter to this table.
Always, you need a physical place that in this case will be the moon.
Okay, so here's what we've got. We have about 14 minutes left. I need to save a little time at the very back end to tell you what you're going to do next. But I'd love to take about 10 minutes and just get some audibles and reactions. In particular, I'd love to hear, was there any insight that occurred to someone while you were working on this that you want to share with the larger group or the like? So, and again, remember, the goal here is to make Aaron travel as far as possible. Okay, we'll start table 10. Table 5. Oh, okay, table 5, sorry.
So when we started with it, it was quite difficult. And then we found most things we were bunching into before 2050. We could not imagine much beyond that. We struggled with the beyond a certain date. And even subjects which we did not understand, with a little bit of Google work, we were able to take some guesses, and that was a bit relief.
Really nice takeaways. One, I'm sure many of you felt like you were utterly unqualified to tackle the subject we assigned you because it was totally random. And as you suggest, you discovered it wasn't that hard. Of course, there's a really important pre-selection here, and that is that you all came to Singularity University and that we knew that you would be open to this kind of thing. What was the other point you made about, the blank spots? This is a map, and you'll see when it's populated out, there are going to be white spots and blank spots. And, interesting thing about maps, there are two kinds of maps. There's the map with everything filled in, and you can use it to drive to one place or another, like Google Maps. And then there are the maps that are exploration maps that have white spots. They might have a lot of detail here, empty space here, and then way out there it says, here be dragons, like who knows what's going on. One of the values of a map like this is not just what you fill in, but what's not filled in, and you can start saying to yourself, what's going on in that space where nobody has enough imagination to figure out what's happening? Table 10, you had?
Yes. We kind of looked at it from, again, dealing with the theme of exponential change, just the few degrees in Celsius and what it's doing, over the cards that we were dealt with chronic hunger around the world, wet bulb days, et cetera. So again, just a small amount of change that we may think is in kind of minute, 3 Celsius, but look at the massive scale of environmental change. So the inverse might be true. We have to have this massive exponential change in our behaviors and actions just to keep it status quo or to bring down, if you will, those 1 or 2 degrees.
Ooh. That's a really wonderful image that we have to do massive change in order to avoid small changes that could kill us all. That's a really wonderful insight. Who can top that? Table 4.
I don't know if I can top that, but I'll give you one insight on what I felt, which is, when you have so much to do and you finally get down on your agenda and write it down, it seems as less. Writing down all of this huge amount of information that we received yesterday, just by plotting it out, it starts to be a little bit more digestible and processable in a way. So I think that's enlightening, and I will keep on doing it in the future because we're dealing with a lot, right?
Thank you. A lot of times, I totally agree with your observation. The best methods are methods that are simple and straightforward, but ramify out in lots of ways. So let me do a pitch for lunch and the visual journaling you're going to be doing. That simple things like keeping a journal, simple things like forcing yourself to look at a blank grid can really ramify out. And then also it helps you get the cross impacts. Like the example from table 10, a small temperature change seems like nothing, but its cross impact is huge. So yes, start with a simple process and let it ramify out into full richness. Yes, somewhere. Yes, sir.
Yeah, the fascinating thing was, if you ask somebody what will happen in 2050, it's an impossible question to answer, right? Or what happens tomorrow, for that matter. So future is fundamentally unknowable, but the process that you kind of laid out, trying to divide it in multiple parts, multiple streams, and then sort of give some cues to try and place out, sort of tries to, it makes it look like you can create a map. Now, I don't know how that map interacts with other things, other features, and whether that makes it better because you feel you know more, or it actually makes it worse because you get biased. So, but yeah, it is a fascinating process.
Yes, and so think of this, what we're producing here is an intellectual backboard to think about possibilities that, it's just a start. And of course, the danger with any map is it looks really pretty and you don't want to mess with it, but this is a map where I hope you'll get copies of it. You mess with it and change things around. Table 3.
Yeah, I think that with the tech evolution and the impact on the world, we are at the table of government and geopolitics. You feel that that tech revolution is going to create a lot of uncertainties. So when you can predict the evolution of a technology and you can see, you know, the exponential progress, on that topic, it's all about uncertainty and how to adapt. There's no predictive, so I felt very, it's not just possibilities, it's more how to react rather than to create. And I felt uncomfortable.
That felt uncomfortable. Good. Who else felt uncomfortable doing this? Show of hands. Oh, come on. There aren't just, if there are only like 7 or 8 people who felt uncomfortable, I've totally screwed up. So, good. Well, I love that observation. And, you know, and also this is cross-impact. When you think of technology and your space governance, I mean, quite simply put, you know, digital technology is the solvent leaching the glue out of our global institutions. And that's the root source of uncertainty. By the way, as a forecaster, my natural instinct is whenever someone's looking at something short term, my focus is to say, well, let's think about that 30 years from now. Like what's happening in Ukraine at the moment. It's a lot more interesting to think about what's going to happen in 20 or 30 years. There are plenty of people thinking about the next week. They don't need us to do that. You should all, being Singularity alumni, soon to be, you should be saying 30 years out. And when someone tells you about something 30 years in the future, you should say, well, what does that mean on Monday? You know, I always make a point of listening to Greg's talk. I've known Greg for over a decade, and I always learn something new when he speaks. And so when he's talking about the short-term thing, I say, what does that mean immediately? And then what about the long-term? Do the reverse. We have a few minutes for other comments.
As a follow-on to what was being talked about, it kind of hit me when we're putting up stickers near the 2070 that I'm going to be over 100 years old on that. So it's the things that when we think about doing things for the future, is it for the future for me, or is it for the future of me and the next generation and the generation after?
This was not a planted comment. Believe me, I had no idea you were going to say that. But thank you, thank you, thank you. It is so essential when you think about the future, ask where you're going to be, and especially think about the future beyond where you will be. That, you know, as people looking ahead and being, you know, world changers, that thinking about what happens after you're gone. Jonas Salk, the inventor of the polio vaccine, put it very nicely. He summed it all up in one sentence. He said, the purpose of life is to learn how to become good ancestors. And thinking out to 2070, for some of us, will be very much about thinking about good ancestral thinking. I think I can do one more comment, and then I'll tell you what's next. Table 7.
Yeah, thanks also for this exercise. I'm sitting here, I'm listening to these largely optimistic views of where we are traveling, and then having gone through all the phone calls and the messages from Europe this morning, I wonder, I can't help feeling the disconnect between sort of some of the stumbling blocks that we're currently running into. There's one narrative that actually says that we are on a continuous journey of enlightenment and an ascendant towards more rationality and sovereignty, but then there's also the reality that particularly now starts catching up with us. And the question is, to what extent do we have to become maestros and maestras in planning ahead, or to what extent do we have to become a class that actually is able to identify strategic intervention points and is able to respond to them and is able to build capacity for that and act in a very systemic environment when stuff gets really hard.
So I'm going to skip the second session this evening and just let you all run it, because you are so spot on about that. And that's why I say emphasize the cross impacts. First of all, I mean, I can unpack all sorts of things from your comments. Whenever people look in the future, they tend to either be wildly optimistic or wildly pessimistic. You know, it was one of our famous film directors, Alfred Hitchcock, once said, movies are everyday life with the dull parts edited out. We tend to think about that in the future, that it's going to be exciting one way or another. You know, cyberspace was either going to be this 20 years ago idealistic new utopian world or the death of us all. What did we get? We got cyberbia. You know, it was somewhere in the middle. And thinking about the cross impacts, you know, what does future technology do to old human habits? And what's playing out right now in Central Europe is playing up on that. So let me tell you what's next. This is just the start of a conversation. By the way, if you notice way down here, there's a category called no boundaries, and there are no cards in it, because I didn't want to distract you with that. But you have Post-its on your table, and you probably still have some white cards. What I'd love for you to do between now and 6 o'clock when we come back to revisiting this is if another idea for a factor occurs to you, write it down, stick it up there, put the year on it. Also, it does not have to be in your category. You are now free at the breaks and whenever, you know, if you were in VR and AR and you've got a thought that goes into manufacturing, write it down and stick it up there. Just add to it. But above all, think about no boundaries. These are, I did my best to come up with categories that I thought would be relevant to our conversation. But I can guarantee you that whatever categories we create in the present are going to be the wrong ones for the future. So if there's something you think is going to happen over the next 50 years, it doesn't fit a category, go ahead and put it in under the no boundaries section. Any questions about that part? Not about that part, but I stood with this question. Oh, can we get you a mic first? Yeah.
I stuck with his question, and I don't know if you have, and I don't know if you don't answer on purpose, but what is the balance between forecasting and agility and resilience?
And forecasting and what?
Forecasting versus agility and resilience to respond fast to whatever comes. So you don't forecast because you prepare to be super agile and respond it fast.
I'm happy to have a longer conversation. It's not either or. That the way I think of the foresight process, and it was embedded in a slide here, where's it? That looking out into the future is like mapping a cone of uncertainty. And roughly speaking, the further out you go, the more uncertain things become, except it's not entirely true. Like I can tell you that 23,000 years from now, the pole star will be the same pole star we had today because it's a 23,000 year cycle. There's some things we can forecast very long. So you're thinking about forecastability. The cone is a cone of possibility. And the way you make more strategic actions in the present is by thoroughly understanding the possibilities in the future. So it's not foresight versus agility. Foresight gives you the ability to be intelligently agile. Okay, last thing is, let's see here. Sorry, I forgot which was my last headline. Note the 6 key headline dates. Each one of your tables has a date on the tent card on the table. That is your assigned year, and what I'm going to ask you when we come back is to write a headline for that year. So you're going to go out to Stephanie's chart here, and notice there are years across the top. Your job so far has been to fill in a horizontal band across all the years. Your table's job between now and 6 is to look vertically, so like the table way out at 2052 is look vertically down all the categories and things going on in there and give me a headline for the category. And just to close with some thoughts of how to do this, we did this. This is the assignment for the table. Note your assigned year, look down the categories, look back at the prior years, ignore what's in front of your category, and write me a headline. Write me a headline for this. And, here's one I just love. It's a nice headline. Psychics predict the world didn't end yesterday. And then last of all, in your package, you will note, maybe somebody, you see little sticky dots at your table somewhere? There should be sticky dots in your package. Let's confirm they're, Did we forget to hand out the sticky dots? Does anybody have sticky dots there? Okay, nobody leave your table. Aaron, can you get someone to fly those sticky? You're going to get sticky dots. Yeah, okay. And what I want you to do is between now and 6, as you're standing out in front of that chart, pick the factors of events you think are the most important. Each person gets 5. Each person gets 5 dots. And at any time between now and 6, put dots on events that you think are important or the like. And only so if Nikki here sees one event and she says, that is the most important event on the chart, I'm going to put all 5 of my dots on it. Nikki cannot do that. You can only put 1 dot per event. You got to spread them around. So, and think about the future headline for your year. You don't have to finalize it. We'll have some time to finalize it. But if you thought we moved fast this morning in a 1-hour session, we only got 30 minutes to do the future headlines today. I'll be around the rest of the day, happy to answer questions about anything. And above all, thank you all. You have been patient and good-natured, and I'm grateful that you've gone along with the process. Back to you, Aaron.
There was one question.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Well, let's get the question. We got a second.
Thank you. Do you want to ask your question?
Okay. Let's get a mic to this gentleman. Who's got a mic? Quick.
For example, we have 2035. Are we putting a headline per each category?
No. Thank you for asking that. So your table is your table 2035? Yes. You want to look all the way down that and give us a headline for the entire year. And I'll give you some examples when we reconvene later. But yeah, just one headline for the year 2035 or thereabouts. And again, don't get too wound around the axle on this. Treat this with a sense of fun and play. You can be misleading or slightly inaccurate, sort of like what we did with the category summaries.